I should have known something was wrong when I saw the luggage. Not that they had luggage that made sense. But the kind of luggage. Matching Louis Vuitton hard-shell suitcases, the ones with wheels that glide like butter on marble. The kind I'd seen in airport magazines while waiting for delayed flights, wondering who actually bought those things. My son and his wife were standing on my porch with $7,000 worth of designer luggage, telling me they'd lost everything. Hello? My name is Eleanor Walsh. People call me Ellie. I'm 70 years old, and I live in a 3-bedroom house in Oak Park, a suburb just west of Chicago. The house isn't fancy, built in 1952, with radiators that clang in winter and a kitchen that still has the original pink tiles. But it's mine. Well, it was my husband's and mine. Now it's just mine. Robert died 4 years ago. Heart attack in his sleep. The doctor said it was peaceful, and I suppose that's true. He didn't suffer. I did the suffering later, in the quiet months that followed, learning how to be just Ellie instead of Bob and Ellie. Learning which light switches controlled which rooms. Learning to make half a pot of coffee instead of a full one. But I adjusted. That's what you do when you're 70 and you've already buried your parents, 3 siblings, and a husband. You adjust. By the time that October evening rolled around, I'd gotten pretty good at being alone. I had my routines. Morning walks around the neighborhood while it was still cool. Crossword puzzles with my coffee. Lunch with my friend Dorothy every Thursday at the diner on Lake Street. Evening news at 6, dinner at 7, bed by 10. Simple. Predictable. Mine. I wasn't lonely, exactly. I had people. My book club met twice a month. My neighbor Carol and I traded tomatoes and zucchini from our gardens all summer. I talked to my son Marcus every couple of weeks on the phone, though the conversations were usually brief. He was busy with his business, his life in Lincoln Park, his wife Stephanie and her yoga studio and her organic juice cleanses. I understood. That's what happens when your children grow up. They get busy. They move on. That's healthy. That's what you want for them. So when the doorbell rang that Tuesday evening in October, I wasn't expecting anyone. I was watching Jeopardy and eating leftover chicken casserole straight from the container because who was I trying to impress? I opened the door, and there they were. Marcus looked tired, thinner than I remembered, and his hairline had crept back another inch since I'd seen him last Christmas. He was wearing an expensive-looking blazer over a t-shirt that studied casual look that somehow costs more than an actual suit. Stephanie stood beside him in white linen pants and a cashmere sweater, her highlighted hair pulled back in a ponytail. She had her arms crossed, hugging herself against the October chill. Behind them, those suitcases gleamed under my porch light. "Mom," Marcus said. His voice cracked slightly. "Can we come in?" Of course I said yes. What mother wouldn't? They rolled the luggage into my living room, parking it next to Bob's old recliner, the one I'd kept even though it clashed with everything. Marcus sat down heavily on the couch, dropping his head into his hands. Stephanie perched on the arm of the sofa, still hugging herself. I made tea. That's what you do in a crisis, you make tea. Even though Americans don't really understand tea the way my mother did, coming from her Irish family where tea solved everything from heartbreak to bankruptcy. I put the kettle on and waited. "The house is gone," Marcus finally said. "We lost it." I set down 3 mugs, the good ones, with the hand-painted flowers. Lost it how? Foreclosure. His jaw tightened. The business. It didn't go the way we planned. We got behind on payments. The bank was really aggressive about it. We thought we had more time. Stephanie made a soft sound. We tried everything, Ellie. We really did. I believed them. Or at least, I believed Marcus. He'd always been sincere, even when he was making mistakes. As a boy, he'd come to me with broken lamps and failed tests and skinned knees, always honest about what happened, always sorry. We need a place to stay, he continued. Just temporarily. 3 months, maybe 4. Just until we get back on our feet. Find a new place. I have some leads on consulting work, and Stephanie's building her wellness brand online. Of course you can stay, I said. I didn't even hesitate. I should have. I should have asked more questions. How did a consulting business fail so badly? What happened to their savings? Why did they need 7 pieces of expensive luggage for a temporary stay? But I didn't ask those things. Because he was my son. Because that's what mothers do. Because my house had 3 bedrooms and I only used 1. Thank you, Mom. Marcus's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you so much. We'll help out around the house, obviously. We won't be a burden. You're not a burden, I told him. And I meant it. At least, I meant it then. The first week was fine. Better than fine, actually. It was almost nice having people in the house again. The sound of voices in the morning. Someone else making coffee. Marcus helped me clean the gutters on Saturday. Stephanie taught me about some breathing app on my phone that was supposed to help with stress, though I wasn't particularly stressed. But by the second week, things started shifting. Mom, Stephanie said one morning, do you have any quinoa? I was at the kitchen counter, sorting through bills. Quinoa? Yeah, or farro. Something ancient grain. The regular oatmeal you buy, it's really inflammatory. I looked at my container of Quaker oats. Bob and I had eaten it for 40 years. I can pick some up at the store. Oh, would you? That would be amazing. Also, if you see any organic kale, grab a few bunches. And coconut milk, but make sure it's the full-fat kind in the can, not the carton. The carton stuff has additives. The grocery bill that week was $287. Usually I spent about $90. I didn't say anything. They were going through a hard time. Quinoa was a small thing. But then there was the matter of the sunroom. I had a small sunroom off the kitchen, just a converted porch, really, with big windows and Boston ferns hanging in macrame holders. It was my favorite spot in the house. I'd sit there in the mornings with my coffee and watch the light change through the trees. On the 3rd week, I came home from lunch with Dorothy and found Stephanie rearranging everything. She'd pushed my reading chair into the corner and set up a ring light and a white backdrop. I'm creating content, she explained. For my wellness platform. This light is perfect. Oh, I said. Of course. That night, lying in bed, I could hear them in the guest room across the hall. Their voices carrying through the walls. She doesn't get it, Stephanie was saying. The importance of authentic storytelling. Building a brand takes real work. She's trying, Marcus said. Give her time. Time. They'd said 3 months. We were only at 3 weeks. I pulled the quilt up to my chin, the one my mother had made, with its faded wedding ring pattern, and listened to the house settling around me. The radiators clicking. The wind rattling the windows. The sound of my son and his wife making themselves at home in my space. I told myself it was fine. Temporary. A bump in the road. But somewhere in my chest, something was starting to tighten. A small voice was starting to ask questions I didn't want to answer. Like why people who'd lost everything were getting packages from Sephora delivered every other day. Like why building a brand seemed to require me to be quiet during filming hours, which were 10 to noon and 3 to 5. Like why my own kitchen was starting to feel like somewhere I needed permission to enter. I didn't know it yet, but that tightness in my chest, that was the sound of my boundaries beginning to disappear. That was the sound of me starting to lose myself in my own house. That was the sound of the door opening, and everything I'd built in 4 years of careful solitude starting to slip away. 3 months in, the electric bill arrived. $473. I stood in my kitchen, or what used to feel like my kitchen, staring at the number. The previous month had been $312. The month before that, $287. Before Marcus and Stephanie moved in, my highest summer bill with the air conditioning running full blast was $165. I looked up at the ceiling. Above me, in what used to be the guest room, I could hear the hum of equipment. Marcus had set up 3 monitors for his consulting work. Stephanie had a mini fridge in the sunroom for her content supplies. The ring lights ran for hours. I put the bill in the drawer with the others. I'd figure it out later. That's what I kept telling myself. Later. I'd deal with it later. The thing about boundaries is that they don't disappear all at once. They erode. Like a shoreline. You don't notice each wave taking a little bit of sand. You just wake up one day and the beach is gone. By month 3, I'd stopped using the sunroom entirely. It was Stephanie's studio now. The ferns were gone, too much visual clutter, she said. My reading chair was in the basement. In its place were backdrop stands, lighting equipment, and a shelf of products she was partnering with. Face serums, adaptogenic powders, crystal water bottles. Don't vacuum between 10 and noon, she told me one Tuesday morning. I'm filming. I was holding the vacuum cleaner. I'd been about to clean the living room, which hadn't been properly vacuumed in a week because I kept missing the acceptable time windows. Oh, I said. When should I? After 2 is usually fine. But check with me first. Sometimes I do afternoon content. I put the vacuum back in the closet. That afternoon, I went to the grocery store. I had a list from Stephanie. Turmeric root, coconut aminos, something called moon milk blend. The cashier scanned everything and the total came to $214. Big party? She asked, smiling. Something like that, I said. In the car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine. My Social Security check was $1,847 a month. Bob's pension added another $890. I'd always lived comfortably on that. Not lavishly, but comfortably. I had savings for emergencies. But the math was getting tight. The electric bill, the grocery bills, the water bill had gone up too, all those showers, all that laundry. Stephanie seemed to change clothes 3 times a day. I started the car. They were going through a hard time. I could manage. That's what I kept telling myself. The next morning, Stephanie knocked on my bedroom door at 5:47 a.m. I was awake. I've always been an early riser, but I was still in bed, listening to the birds and the sound of the paperboy's car making its rounds. "Ellie?" Her voice came through the door. "Are you up?" I put on my robe. Opened the door. She was already dressed in matching athleisure wear, her hair in a high ponytail, full makeup on. "I'm so sorry to ask this, but could you make breakfast? I'm filming a morning routine video and it would be so much more authentic if there was actual food." "What time do you need it?" "Like, now? Is that okay? I already set up the shot." 20 minutes later, I was poaching eggs for Eggs Benedict while Stephanie filmed herself doing sun salutations in the sunroom. She'd given me specific instructions. Hollandaise sauce from scratch. English muffins toasted to golden, not brown. Fresh chives for garnish. I made 2 plates. Arranged them carefully. Brought them to the sunroom. "Perfect," Stephanie said. She filmed herself taking a bite, closing her eyes in exaggerated bliss. Nourishing my body with wholesome, intentional foods." Then she set down the fork. "Actually, I'm not that hungry. I had a protein shake earlier. But thank you so much, Ellie. This was exactly what I needed for the content." She picked up her phone and walked out. I looked at the 2 plates of food. I'd been standing at the stove for 25 minutes. My feet hurt. I hadn't had my coffee yet. I ate my breakfast standing at the counter. The eggs had gone cold. That afternoon, I tried to talk to Marcus. He was in the living room, on his laptop, wearing noise-canceling headphones. I waited until he looked up. "Do you have a minute?" I asked. "Sure, Mom. What's up?" But his eyes drifted back to the screen. "I was just thinking, maybe we should talk about expenses. The bills are getting pretty high." "Yeah, totally. I'm actually expecting a payment from a client next week. Big one. I'll definitely chip in then." "Okay," I said. "And maybe we could set up a schedule? For the sunroom? So I could use it sometimes?" He looked confused. "You want to use the sunroom? It used to be where I had my morning coffee." "Oh." He nodded. "Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Talk to Stephanie about her filming schedule. I'm sure you guys can work something out." He put the headphones back on. I stood there for a moment, invisible. That's what I was starting to feel like. Invisible. Or worse, like staff. Like I was the housekeeper in my own home. The client payment never came. Or if it did, it didn't make it to the bills. But packages kept arriving. I'd come home from my Thursday lunch with Dorothy and there would be boxes on the porch. Clothing brands I recognized from commercials. Beauty products. Once, a delivery man handed me a package that required a signature. It was marked, "Perishable, refrigerate immediately." I put it in the fridge. It was caviar. A 4-ounce tin. I looked it up later. $247. That night, I made spaghetti with jarred sauce because I was too tired to cook anything else. Stephanie looked at her plate like I'd served her prison food. "Are there nitrates in this sauce?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "It's just, I'm trying to be really clean with my eating right now." For the inflammation, Marcus ate without looking up from his phone. I excused myself and went to bed at 8:30. But I couldn't sleep. I lay in the dark, listening to them in the living room. The TV was on. They were watching something that involved a lot of laughing and bright colors. My TV. In my living room. I hadn't watched the evening news in my own house in 2 weeks. Around 10, I heard Stephanie's voice rise. I'm just saying, maybe your mom could be more supportive of what I'm building. This isn't just a hobby, Marcus. This is a business. She's letting us live here rent-free. Okay, but the vibe matters. She's always in the kitchen when I need to film my intuitive eating content. It's not authentic if there's an old lady shuffling around in the background. Old lady. I pulled the quilt up higher. Stared at the ceiling. Old lady shuffling around in her own kitchen. The next morning, I took out the trash. It was recycling day, so I was sorting through the bins, paper in one, plastic in another. That's when I saw it. A receipt. Crumpled at the bottom of the trash bag. I don't know why I pulled it out. Maybe because part of me already knew. Chanel. One leather handbag. Black quilted with gold chain. $5,800. My hands were shaking. I dug deeper. Found another receipt. This one was a confirmation printout from an email. Bali Wellness Retreat. March 15 to 22. Luxury villa accommodation. Daily spa services. Private yoga instruction. Total $5,200. I sat down on the back steps. $11,000. While I was buying their groceries. While I was paying the electric bill. While I was getting up at 5 in the morning to make breakfast that got thrown away. The anger came slowly. It started in my chest, like heartburn. Spread to my throat. Made my eyes hot. I'd spent 4 years learning to be alone. Learning to take up space in my own life again after decades of being Bob's wife, Marcus's mother. I'd gotten good at it. I'd been proud of it. And in 3 months, I'd let it all disappear. I'd let myself become small again. Quiet. Invisible. Convenient. I sat there on those back steps with $11,000 worth of receipts in my hand, and something inside me finally broke. Not broke like shattered. Broke like woke up. I thought about Dorothy, my friend from book club. She'd been a lawyer before she retired. She'd handled her own divorce back in the 70s when that sort of thing wasn't done. She was sharp. Direct. She didn't take nonsense from anyone. I went inside. Left the receipts on my bedroom dresser, smoothed flat. Then I called Dorothy. "I need help," I said when she answered. "What kind of help?" "The legal kind." There was a pause. Then, "I'll be there in an hour." I hung up and looked around my bedroom. The mint green walls Bob and I had painted together in 1989. The dresser that had been my grandmother's. The window that looked out over the backyard where Marcus had played as a child. This was my house, my life, my space, and I was about to take it back. Dorothy arrived at 2:15 on a Thursday afternoon. She was wearing what I called her lawyer clothes, a navy blazer, pressed slacks, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She'd been retired for 15 years, but she still dressed like she might need to walk into a courtroom at any moment. I'd made coffee. Real coffee, the good stuff I'd been saving. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Bob and I had eaten thousands of meals, where Marcus had done his homework as a boy. I put the receipts between us. Dorothy picked them up, studied them. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her jaw tighten. "Where are they now?" she asked. "Stephanie's filming in the sunroom. Marcus is at a coffee shop somewhere." "Meeting," he said. She set down the receipts. Looked at me straight on. "Ellie, what do you want?" That's what I'd always liked about Dorothy. No dancing around. No softening things. "I want my house back," I said. She nodded. Then you're going to need to evict them. The word hit me hard. Evict. My own son. It's a legal process, Dorothy continued. In Illinois, even if there's no lease, they're considered tenants. You have to give 30 days written notice. You have to do it properly or they can fight it. Would Marcus fight it? She looked at me for a long moment. I don't know your son well enough to answer that. But I know people who spend $5,800 on a handbag while living rent-free in their mother's house. Those people usually fight. My hands were wrapped around my coffee mug. The ceramic was warm against my palms. I can draft the notice, Dorothy said. But Ellie, you need to be ready. This will change everything. Your relationship with Marcus. How he sees you. How you see yourself. I know. Do you? Because once you hand him that paper, you can't be the accommodating mother anymore. You have to hold the line. I thought about the past 3 months. The grocery bills. The electric bills. The 5 a.m. wake-up calls for breakfast that got thrown away. The feeling of being invisible in my own home. I'm ready, I said. Dorothy opened her briefcase, pulled out a legal pad, started writing. 30 minutes later, I had a document. Formal, typed, notarized with Dorothy's personal seal, which apparently still carried weight even in retirement. Notice to vacate premises. You have 30 days from receipt of this notice to vacate the property located at. I read it 3 times. Don't give it to them yet, Dorothy said. Wait until you have a plan. Document everything, take photos, keep receipts. And Ellie? Change your bank account passwords. Lock up any valuables or documents. People get desperate when they're cornered. Marcus wouldn't. Maybe not. But she might. After Dorothy left, I sat alone in my kitchen. The house was quiet. Stephanie had finished filming and gone out Pilates or a facial or lunch with someone who mattered for her brand. Marcus still wasn't home. I had 30 days to prepare. I started small. The next morning, Stephanie knocked on my door at 5:52 a.m. Ellie? I need breakfast for a video. I stayed in bed. I'm not feeling well this morning. Sorry. Silence. Then, oh, okay. Feel better. I listened to her footsteps retreat. Listened to the sounds of her in the kitchen, opening cabinets, clearly lost. She eventually left without breakfast. I heard the front door close. I got up, made my own coffee, sat in the sunroom, my sunroom, for the first time in weeks. The light coming through the windows was exactly as I remembered it. That afternoon, I did my own laundry. Just mine. I walked past the overflowing hamper in the hallway. Stephanie's clothes, Marcus's clothes, towels they'd used, and I left it there. I made dinner. 1 portion. Chicken breast, roasted vegetables, a small salad. When Marcus came home at 7, he looked at the stove. Did you already eat? He asked. Yes. Oh, is there anything left? I only made enough for myself. There's sandwich stuff in the fridge. He stared at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. I ate at the kitchen table, alone. Read my book while I ate. When I finished, I washed my single plate, my single fork, my single glass. Then I went to my room. I could hear them talking in the living room. Their voices were low but urgent. I couldn't make out words, just tone. Confusion. Irritation. Good, I thought. The next day, Stephanie tried a different approach. Ellie, we should talk, she said. She'd cornered me in the hallway. Her voice was gentle, concerned. Marcus says you've been acting different. Are you okay? Is something bothering you? I looked at her. Really looked at her. The designer athleisure wear. The fresh manicure. The subtle highlights in her hair that cost at least $200 to maintain. I'm fine, I said. Just tired. Well, if you need anything, you know we're here for you. We're family. Family. Thank you, I said. And walked away. Over the next week, I continued my quiet revolution. I stopped buying their groceries. When I went to the store, I bought food for one. If they wanted quinoa and moon milk and adaptogenic mushrooms, they could buy them themselves. I stopped cleaning the sunroom. Stopped organizing Marcus's papers when they spread across the dining table. Stopped being the invisible force that kept the house running while they pursued their dreams on my dime. I was polite. I was civil. But I was done being convenient. The shift in the house was palpable. Like a change in air pressure before a storm. Marcus started watching me. Not obviously, but I'd catch him looking. Trying to figure out what had changed. Trying to calculate his next move. Stephanie became overly cheerful. Complimenting my hair, my clothes, asking about my day with exaggerated interest. It was the same tone she used in her videos. Performative. Hollow. They were nervous. They should have been. On the 12th day of my quiet rebellion, I came home from lunch with Dorothy and heard voices in the kitchen. Marcus and Stephanie, talking in low tones. Invite them for dinner, Stephanie was saying. Your aunt and uncle. We'll do this whole grateful thing. Show how much we appreciate Mom. It'll remind her that we're family. That we're supposed to help each other. You think that'll work? It has to. She's been weird lately. We need to get things back to normal. I stood in the hallway, listening. When? Marcus asked. Saturday. I'll make it fancy. We'll show her how much we value her. And then what? Stephanie's voice dropped lower. I had to strain to hear. Then we ask her about the downstairs. The master bedroom. If she moved to the basement, I could use that space for my studio. Better light. More room. It makes sense, right? She doesn't need that much space. My blood went cold. They wanted my bedroom. They wanted to put me in the basement of my own house. I backed away quietly, went to my room, closed the door, sat on the edge of my bed, the bed I'd shared with Bob for 43 years, the bed where I'd nursed Marcus through childhood fevers, the bed where I'd cried after Bob's funeral. They wanted to put me in the basement. I opened my dresser drawer. Took out the eviction notice Dorothy had prepared. I'd been waiting for the right moment. This was it. But I'd wait until Saturday. Let them have their dinner. Let them perform their gratitude. Let them make their ask. And then I'd show them exactly what I thought of their plan. I folded the notice carefully. Put it in an envelope. Sealed it. Then I called Dorothy again. The dinner is Saturday, I told her. I'm going to do it then. You're sure? I looked around my bedroom. My space. My sanctuary. The place they wanted to take from me. I'm sure. Do you want backup? I can be there. No. This is something I need to do myself. After I hung up, I sat in the quiet. Outside, I could hear a lawnmower. Someone's dog barking. The normal sounds of a Thursday afternoon in Oak Park. Inside, everything had changed. I wasn't the accommodating mother anymore. I wasn't the convenient old lady shuffling around in the background. I was Eleanor Walsh, 70 years old, owner of this house. And I was about to take back everything they'd stolen from me. Starting with my dignity. Saturday was 2 days away. I had 48 hours to prepare. To shore up my resolve. To make sure I could look my son in the eye and tell him to leave. It would be the hardest thing I'd ever done. But staying silent? Disappearing in my own home? That would be harder. I got up, smoothed down the bedspread, looked at myself in the mirror. I barely recognized the woman looking back. When had I gotten so small? When had I learned to fold myself into corners? No more, I said to my reflection. The woman in the mirror nodded back. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. Saturday evening, I wore the blue dress. The one Bob always said made my eyes look bright. I put on lipstick, earrings. I wanted to look like someone who knew exactly what she was doing. Because I did. The dining room table was set for 5. Stephanie had spent all afternoon cooking, or at least, making it look like she'd cooked. I'd seen the takeout containers in the trash. Fancy Italian place downtown. She'd transferred everything to serving dishes. Put out cloth napkins. Lit candles. It looked beautiful. It looked like a trap. Marcus's Aunt Sarah and her husband Mike arrived at 6:30. Sarah was Bob's younger sister, 72, sharp as ever, with silver hair cut in a practical bob. Mike was retired military, straightforward, no nonsense. I liked them. Ellie. Sarah hugged me. You look wonderful. How are you managing? I'm well, I said. Really well. We sat down. Stephanie brought out the first course. Some kind of salad with candied walnuts and goat cheese. This looks amazing, Stephanie, Sarah said. Thank you so much. Stephanie beamed. I just love cooking. It's such a meditative practice, you know? Nourishing the people you love. I took a bite of salad. Didn't say anything. Marcus cleared his throat. We're really grateful you could come tonight. We wanted to do something special. To show our appreciation. Appreciation? Mike asked. For Mom. Marcus looked at me. His expression was warm. Sincere. I might have believed it if I didn't know what was coming. She's been so generous. Letting us stay here while we get back on our feet. We couldn't have made it through this rough patch without her. Sarah reached over and patted my hand. You always were a wonderful mother. Stephanie nodded enthusiastically. Ellie has been such a blessing. Honestly, having her wisdom and support? It's been life-changing. I sipped my water. Waited. The main course came out. Osso buco. Risotto. Roasted vegetables. We ate. Made small talk. Sarah told a story about her grandkids. Mike complained about his knee. Stephanie laughed at all the right moments. Then, during dessert tiramisu, also from the restaurant, Marcus set down his fork. Actually, we wanted to talk to everyone about something, he said. A family conversation. Here it comes, I thought. We've been thinking about the living situation, he continued. Long term, and we have an idea that could work really well for everyone. Stephanie leaned forward. The thing is, my business is really taking off. I need more space for content creation. Better lighting. Room for equipment. That's wonderful, Sarah said. Congratulations. Thank you. So we were thinking. Stephanie glanced at Marcus. He nodded. What if Mom moved downstairs? To the basement bedroom? It's cooler down there in the summer. Quieter. And then I could use the master bedroom as a studio. It has those beautiful windows. The natural light is just perfect. The table went silent. Sarah's smile froze. The basement? It's actually really nice down there, Marcus said quickly. We'd help Mom move everything. Make it comfortable. She'd have her own space, Stephanie added. And we'd all be together. One big family. Mike set down his napkin. Let me get this straight. You want Ellie to move to the basement of her own house? It's not like that, Marcus said. It's just a practical solution. Mom doesn't need all that space. And Stephanie's business. Your mother is 70 years old, Sarah interrupted. Her voice had gone cold. And you want her to live in a basement so your wife can make videos? They're not just videos, Stephanie said. It's a wellness platform. I have 12,000 followers. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. I walked to the kitchen. Came back with the envelope. The one I'd been carrying in my pocket all evening. I placed it on the table. Right next to the tiramisu. Then I pulled out the receipts. Smoothed them flat. Before we talk about where I should live in my own house, I said, I think we should talk about these. Marcus went pale. Stephanie's mouth opened, closed. Sarah picked up the first receipt. Chanel. $5,800. She looked at Stephanie. When was this purchased? I can explain, Stephanie started. 3 weeks ago, I said. While I was paying a $473 electric bill. I put down the second receipt. Bali Wellness Retreat, I continued. $5,200. Luxury villa. Private yoga instruction. Booked for March. Sarah's face had gone from confusion to fury. She turned to Marcus. You told us you lost everything. That you were broke. That you needed help. We did lose the house, Marcus said. But not the ability to buy designer handbags? Mike's voice was like gravel. Not the ability to book $5,000 vacations? You don't understand, Stephanie said. Her voice had gone high. Defensive. I need certain things for my brand. Image is everything. You can't build a wellness platform without. Without what? I asked. Without exploiting your mother-in-law? Without taking her money while she makes you breakfast at 5 in the morning? Stephanie's face flushed. I never asked you to do that. You did. 12 times in the last month. Well, you didn't have to say yes. You're right, I said. I didn't. I picked up the envelope. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steady. This is a legal notice to vacate the premises. You have 30 days to leave my house. The silence that followed was absolute. Marcus stared at the envelope like it was a weapon. Mom. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious. But we're family. Family doesn't ask their 70-year-old mother to move to the basement. Family doesn't spend $11,000 on luxuries while pretending to be broke. Family doesn't treat someone like a servant in their own home. Stephanie stood up abruptly. Her chair scraped against the floor. You know what? This is exactly what I expected. You've never supported my dreams. You've never understood what I'm trying to build. I understand perfectly, I said. You're trying to build it on my back. That's not fair. What's not fair is that you have been living rent-free for 3 months while spending thousands of dollars on things you don't need. What's not fair is that you turned my sunroom into your studio and my kitchen into your set and my entire life into your convenience. My voice was rising. I couldn't stop it. What's not fair is that I spent 4 years learning how to be okay alone. Learning how to take up space. Learning how to be Eleanor instead of just Bob's wife or Marcus's mother. And in 3 months, you made me disappear. Marcus stood up. Mom, please. Let's talk about this. We can work something out. No, I said. We can't. Because every time I've tried to talk, you've ignored me. Every time I've asked for something, even just to use my own sunroom, I've been told to work around your schedule. In my own house. Sarah was nodding. Mike looked at Marcus with something close to disgust. I'm sorry it came to this, I continued. I'm sorry I have to be the bad guy. But I'm not sorry for choosing myself. Not anymore. I picked up the envelope and held it out to Marcus. He didn't take it. 30 days, I said. The notice is dated and notarized. If you're not out by then, I'll file for a formal eviction through the sheriff's office. I set the envelope on his empty plate. Then I turned and walked out of the dining room. I went to my bedroom that they'd wanted to take from me, and I closed the door. I could hear voices. Raised voices. Sarah and Mike, angry. Stephanie, crying. Marcus, defensive. I didn't care. I sat on the edge of my bed and I cried. Not sad tears. Not scared tears. Relief. Pure, overwhelming relief. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. After 40 minutes, I heard footsteps in the hallway. A soft knock. Ellie? It was Sarah. Can I come in? I opened the door. She hugged me. Tight. I'm so proud of you. Are they still here? They left. Stephanie was hysterical. Marcus was. Well, he was embarrassed. As he should be. She pulled back, looked at me. Mike and I had no idea. If we'd known what they were doing. I know. Do you need anything? Do you want us to stay? No, I'm okay. I'm good. After Sarah and Mike left, the house was quiet again. My house. I walked through the rooms. The dining room with its half-eaten dessert. The living room with Marcus's papers still spread across the coffee table. The sunroom with its ring lights and backdrops. In 30 days, it would all be gone. In 30 days, I'd have my house back. I stood in the sunroom and looked out at the darkened backyard. The moon was bright. The trees were shadows. I'd been so afraid of being the bad guy. Of being the cruel mother. Of choosing myself over my son. But standing there, in the quiet of my own home, I realized something. Sometimes love means saying no. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is hold a boundary. Sometimes you have to let people fail so they can learn to stand on their own. I wasn't the bad guy. I was just done being small. The 30 days were long. And short. And necessary. Marcus and Stephanie didn't leave quietly. I suppose I should have expected that. People who spend $5,800 on handbags while pretending to be destitute aren't the type to accept consequences with grace. The first week, they barely spoke to me. They moved through the house like ghosts. Stephanie dismantled her studio in the sunroom, packing up her ring lights and backdrops with theatrical sighs. Marcus spent hours on his laptop, headphones on, pointedly ignoring me when I passed. The second week, they tried a different approach. Mom, can we talk? Marcus caught me in the kitchen one morning. His voice was soft. Wounded. I think we got off on the wrong foot. Maybe we can work something out. Compromise. The notice stands, I said. But we're family. The notice stands. He left without another word. The third week, they got desperate. I started seeing posts on social media Dorothy's granddaughter showed me. Stephanie had written a long caption about toxic family dynamics and unsupportive elders who don't understand entrepreneurship. She'd posted the Chanel bag with a caption about investing in yourself even when no one believes in you. The comments weren't what she expected. People asked questions. About where she was living. Who was paying her bills? Why someone who could afford Chanel needed to live with her mother-in-law. She deleted the post within 6 hours. By the 4th week, reality had settled in. I'd see them packing boxes, making phone calls, their voices tight with stress. Marcus had found a month-to-month rental, a studio apartment in a less desirable neighborhood. It was all they could afford. On the 29th day, they loaded the last box into a U-Haul. I stood on the porch and watched. Marcus turned to me before getting in the truck. For a moment, I thought he might apologize. Might say something real. Instead, he said, "I hope you're happy." Then they drove away. I went back inside. Stood in the middle of my living room. The silence was enormous. I cried for about 10 minutes. Not because I regretted what I'd done. But because it still hurt. Because he was still my son. Because some part of me would always be the mother who wanted to fix things, to make everything okay. But I was also Eleanor Walsh. And Eleanor Walsh didn't set herself on fire to keep other people warm anymore. The next morning, I reclaimed my house. I moved my reading chair back into the sunroom. Hung the ferns. Sat there with my coffee and watched the light change through the trees, exactly the way I used to. It felt like coming home. Over the following months, I heard updates through Sarah. Marcus and Stephanie had both gotten jobs, real jobs, the kind where you show up and work for 8 hours and get a paycheck. He was doing inventory management at a warehouse. She was working the front desk at a hotel. Their social media went quiet. No more wellness content. No more performative gratitude posts. They were learning what the rest of us already knew: life is hard. Money doesn't appear out of nowhere. You can't live on other people's generosity forever. I didn't take any pleasure in their struggle. But I didn't feel guilty about it either. That was new for me. Not feeling guilty. A year passed. Then another. I settled back into my routines. Morning walks. Coffee in the sunroom. Thursday lunches with Dorothy. Book club twice a month. I painted the bedroom a soft mint green that made me happy every time I walked in. I joined a Tai Chi class at the community center. I learned how to use Instagram, though I mostly just looked at pictures of other people's gardens. I was 72 years old and I was learning that it's never too late to become yourself. Then, one November afternoon, my phone rang. "Mom?" Marcus's voice was different. Quieter. Older somehow. I was wondering, could you come to dinner? At our place? Our place. Not an apartment. A place. When? I asked. Thanksgiving. If you're free. I thought about it. Wondered if I was ready. I'll be there, I said. Their home was a small bungalow in Berwyn, about 20 minutes from my house. The neighborhood was working class, modest. The kind of place where people mowed their own lawns and knew their neighbors' names. I pulled up and sat in the car for a moment. Then I got out. Stephanie answered the door. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. No makeup. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired but real. "Ellie," she said, "thank you for coming." Inside, the house was small but clean. Furnished with things from thrift stores and garage sales. No designer anything. No ring lights. Just a couch and a table and the smell of something cooking. Marcus came out of the kitchen wearing an apron. An apron. "Hey, Mom." We stood there for a moment, awkward. Then I hugged him. "The turkey's almost done," he said when we pulled apart. "It's my first time making one." So, no promises. We sat down to eat. The turkey was a little dry. The stuffing was from a box. The rolls were store-bought. It was the best meal we'd had together in years. "Mom," Marcus said halfway through dinner. He set down his fork. "I need to say something." I waited. "I'm sorry. For everything. For taking advantage of you. For treating your home like it was mine to use. For not seeing what we were doing until it was too late." His voice cracked slightly. "You deserved better. You deserved so much better." Stephanie nodded. "I was so caught up in building this image of who I thought I should be that I forgot how to just be a decent person. You opened your home to us and I turned it into a production studio. That was wrong. We've been working," Marcus continued. "Really working. Stephanie's taking night classes for hotel management. I'm studying for a project management certification. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're trying." I looked at them. Really looked at them. They'd changed. Not just their circumstances. Them. "I'm proud of you," I said. Marcus's eyes filled with tears. We finished dinner. I helped with dishes Stephanie washed. I dried, Marcus put away. Like a real family. Not a performance. Not an obligation. Just 3 people in a kitchen, doing what needed to be done. Before I left, Marcus walked me to my car. "The house looks good," he said. "Sarah told me you painted." "Mint green," I said. "It makes me happy." He smiled. "I'm glad, Mom. I'm really glad you're happy." "Are you happy?" He thought about it. "I'm getting there. It's hard. But it's real, you know? For the first time in a long time, things are real." I hugged him goodbye. Driving home, I thought about boundaries. How we're taught that love means giving everything. Sacrificing everything. Saying yes to everything. But that's not love. That's self-erasure. Real love has edges. Real love says I care about you, but I also care about myself. I want to help you, but I won't destroy myself to do it. I'm your mother, but I'm also Eleanor. And Eleanor matters too. The thing they don't tell you about setting boundaries is that sometimes people have to hit bottom before they can climb back up. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is step back and let them fall. Not because you don't love them, but because you do. I pulled into my driveway. Looked at my house with its light on over the porch, welcoming me home. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The reading chair in the sunroom. The mint green bedroom. The kitchen that was mine to use whenever I wanted, however I wanted. I made tea. Sat in the sunroom even though it was dark out. Watched my reflection in the window. 72 years old. Living alone. Happy. Really, truly happy. The boundaries I'd set hadn't just protected me. They'd freed Marcus and Stephanie too. Freed them from the delusion that someone else would always fix their problems. Freed them to become people who worked and struggled and earned things honestly. And freed me to be more than just mom. More than just the accommodating one. More than just the person who made everything easier for everyone else. I was Eleanor Walsh. And that was enough. That was more than enough. Some people might say I was too hard on them. That family should forgive anything, endure anything, sacrifice anything. But I learned something in those 30 days and the 2 years that followed. Unconditional love doesn't mean unconditional access. It doesn't mean erasing yourself. It doesn't mean accepting mistreatment because you share DNA. Love with boundaries isn't less than love. It's the only kind of love that lasts. The only kind that's real. I finished my tea, rinsed the cup, turned off the lights. Tomorrow, I'd have coffee in the sunroom. I'd do the crossword puzzle. Maybe I'd call Dorothy about lunch. My life, my choices, my peace. I'd spent 3 months learning to disappear. But I'd spent the last 2 years learning to exist again. And that made all the difference. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, if it reminded you that it's never too late to reclaim your life, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to Grandmama Radio. Hit that like button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. We're all just trying to figure this out together, one boundary at a time. Until next time, take care of yourselves. You're worth it.